The United States and its people are on high alert today after Iran made a chilling threat to unleash sleeper cells in retaliation to the attack by America on Iran's nuclear sites.
من هدف مشروع ایران هستند. آمریکا با این اقدامی که انجام داد علیه ایران و حریم هوایی ایران را شکست و جنایت علیه ایران انجام داد دیگه جایی در منطقه غرب آسیا نداره. آقای رئیس جمهور آمریکا شما شروع کردید و ما تمومش خواهیم کرد.
Iran then doubled down, claiming they are well within their rights to retaliate under the UN's Charter Self-Defense Clause.
The U.S. act of aggression against Iran's peaceful nuclear facilities constitutes not only a flagrant breach of the UN Charter, especially the prohibition of the use of force under Article 2, Paragraph 4, and the obligation to respect the state's territorial integrity and sovereignty, but also a violation of UN Security Council Resolution 2231. It cannot be emphasized enough how much of a devastating blow that the US, a permanent member of the Security Council, has dealt to the global non-proliferation regime. The Islamic Republic of Iran reminds the United Nations, the Security Council, the UN Secretary General, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and other relevant international bodies of their duty and responsibility to take urgent and decisive action in response to this breach of international law. Silence in the face of such blatant aggression will plunge the world into an unprecedented level of danger and chaos.
NBC went on to reveal that Trump was aware of the threat of sleeper cell activation before the strikes on Iran, but continued anyway. They said, Iran sent a communique to Trump in the days before last night's strike on its nuclear facilities, threatening to activate sleeper cell terror inside the United States if it were attacked. The message got to Trump through an intermediary at the Group of Seven summit in Canada last week, which Trump left early June 16 to consider his options amid the conflict between Israel and Iran, according to sources who include 2 US officials and a person with knowledge of the threat. But threats of homegrown retaliation are not affecting Donald Trump, with the president only reacting with more strength and stronger threats against Iran. He said, any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight. And despite Trump's tough talking, many Americans are frightened at the threat of sleeper cell activation, which Tom Homan brutally blames on Joe Biden.
Can you assess that issue particularly? How many Iranians are in the country that are in sleeper cells trying to do bad to America right now?
Well, look, you and I have talked about this many times. I said the last 4 years, my biggest concern was this open border was the biggest national security vulnerability this country's ever seen. So I pulled numbers this morning just from a CBP under Joe Biden. There was 1,272 nationals of Iran released in the country between OFO and the Border Patrol. And you compare that to the Trump administration, zero. Right, 0 releases. And right now, because of President Trump's leadership, we have the most secure border in my lifetime, most secure border in the history of this nation. So we have a secure border. So that was President Trump's big win on securing this nation. So we're not releasing people in this country. Special interest aliens aren't crossing that border undetected. But under Joe Biden, we had over 10 million people cross that border. But my biggest concern from day one, beyond the fentanyl, beyond the sex trafficking women and children, were the 2 million known gotaways. Over 2 million people crossed that border. We don't know who they are, where they came from, because they got away, because Border Patrol was so overwhelmed with the humanitarian crisis that Biden created that over 2 million people crossed the border and got away. That is my biggest concern, and that's what created the biggest national security vulnerability this country's ever seen.
Commentator Valentina Gomez agreed.
Joe Biden and his administration allowed thousands of terrorists into American soil. I hope I'm wrong, but it is a matter of time until Iran activates sleeper cells in America. Stay armed, stay vigilant, and neutralize any threat before you get neutralized.
And this online commentator agreed also, saying sleeper cells wouldn't be a thing if Democrats didn't open our border for 4 years. But Vice President J.D. Vance assured Americans the US has the capability to ward off any retaliatory attacks by Iran.
What we're prepared for is if they attack us in a maximal direction, first of all, we have got maximum defensive posture. I think that we're going to be able to defend as many of our people as possible. And of course, I'd encourage Americans to pray for our guys in the Middle East because, yes, they are under a significant amount of duress and a significant amount of threat right now. But then, of course, John, if the Iranians attack us, they're going to be met with overwhelming force. And I don't think the president could be clear about this. If you look at what we did yesterday, John, we did not attack the nation of Iran. We did not attack any civilian targets. We didn't even attack military targets outside of the 3 nuclear weapons facilities that we thought were important to accomplish our goal of preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. So how Iran responds, I think, is ultimately the ball is in their court. But if you look at what we did, it was very precise, very narrowly tailored to our objective. And if the Iranians decide to expand this, then that's ultimately their decision, and the President of the United States will respond in kind.
Online commentators applauded Vance's measured response, saying, "America thanks your perseverance to keep us safe. Iran can never have weapons." But not everyone is so supportive of the Trump administration's decision to enter the war. This commentator said, "It was like borrowing a cup of sugar from your neighbor, except instead of a quick knock on the door, you sent a fleet of stealth bombers, dropped bombs the size of washing machines, and then casually walked back home without even stopping for a chat." This captures the absurdity and understatement of describing a complex military operation as trivial and risk-free, correct?